Multiple concurrent economic, political, and ecological shocks are converging to rock the globe in the next decade, and the world is playing catch up to address them all. Fortune warns we're in a new polycrisis era, and the World Economic Forum just warned us what to prepare for. And what should not go unnoticed are the massive changes and preparation that businesses and corporations like the mega retail giant Walmart and industry partners are preparing for behind the scenes. And yes, there are numerous threats present, like this man seen here putting Walmart shoppers and employees in danger while waving a knife around in the self-checkout area before being subdued by the good bystanders before police arrived and detained him. However, the problems are much bigger than this mentally unstable character. Like this one here. 5 Walmart suppliers team up on renewable energy buy, as well as how this will impact Walmart shoppers and affect Walmart workers and employees' futures of possible employment and major changes coming to the stores, remaining open, closures, pay rates, compensation, sustainability, prices, food availability, food shortages, stockpiling levels, pantry staples, chicken, eggs, milk, all the essentials, shortages, employment, layoffs, more technology, automation, AI, self-checkout, automatic order picking, Walmart Spark, Walmart Plus, high amounts of theft, inventory loss, shrink, loss prevention, and the list goes on and on. Meanwhile, the Davos elite like to make bold predictions. Seen here, George Soros, billionaire and founder of Soros Fund Management, at the World Economic Forum in Davos, Switzerland in January of 2016. Billionaire investor George Soros warned during a speech at the Davos in 2018 that the United States could be headed for a nuclear war with North Korea. And he said at the time, the United States is set on a course towards nuclear war by refusing to accept that North Korea has become a nuclear power. And the Obama administration also said back in 2016 that this was a top national security risk. Yet so far, the United States has avoided any military conflict with North Korea. And in fact, recent concerns along these lines are focused on Russia in the wake of its invasion of the Ukraine. So maybe these WEF elites aren't always right with the outcomes of their predictions. However, recent warnings of 2023 predictions reveal cost of living crisis is top immediate risk for Davos elite. And most importantly, noting that climate is biggest long-term threat, but fiscal space is narrowing and countries need to work together to avoid polycrisis. And the WEF Global Risks Report suggests there will be little respite as countries grapple with energy inflation, food and security crises, which means a short period of rest or relief from something difficult or unpleasant. And we all know what that means. So please pay attention, folks, because this is very important. And I'm going to discuss breaking information that I have received about the future of energy, which will have a substantial impact on inflation, food, and most importantly, security crises. As well as today's video sponsor, Uranium Royalty Corp, NASDAQ stock ticker symbol UROY, UROY, and CNN Business reports global experts worry simultaneous crisis could become the new norm. And the reasons behind why the Motley Fool reports uranium stocks exploded. Some really important stuff here, folks. Possible dangers, likely threats, and responsible measures of planning and preparation coming right up in this video. So please give this video a like, subscribe to the channel, and let's get right into it. All right, so 5 Walmart suppliers teamed up to purchase renewable energy from a Kansas wind farm, a deal that was described as a part of the retailer's plan to reduce 1 billion metric tons worth of emissions throughout its supply chain by 2030. Now, this push for green renewable energy is going to be very important moving forward and very important to what I have to share with you later on in this video. So stick with me here, okay? So Levi Strauss & Co., J.M. Smucker Co., Great Lakes Cheese, Valvoline, and Amy's Kitchen executed an aggregate purchase for renewable energy from a wind farm in Marion County, Kansas. However, the complete financial terms were not disclosed, and the agreement is expected to create 250,000 megawatt hours annually of renewable energy. And the 12-year power purchase agreement is the first under Walmart and Schneider Electric's Renewable Energy Accelerator Gigaton PPA. The program expands suppliers' access to clean energy by allowing vendors to partner and enter into long-term contracts with renewable providers. But there's a big problem with this. Here, let me show you guys.
I'm Ninja here. I hope you're doing great. I'm sure you're wondering what I'm doing out in the middle of nowhere. I'm sure you're also wondering why I have ketchup and mustard all down my side. Well, first off, you must know, I got attacked by a very angry hot dog in Bakersfield. Secondly, the reason why I'm out here is to show you these guys. Look at them. Look at them all just moving, making energy. Well, except for that one. I was told by a guy out here working on him, that one's sleeping. He's a little tired, so he's not making energy right now.
Yep, that's right. These forms of clean energy don't work all the time and are very inefficient, extremely expensive to construct. Oh, and don't forget they use a large amount of petroleum-based greenhouse emissions gas-producing equipment and fuel to build and maintain. More on that in just a moment. So according to Utility Drive, power purchase agreements allow businesses to cut out the utility middleman and purchase energy directly from renewable providers, and they've become a popular way to meet sustainability goals while potentially keeping costs down. Key words here, keeping costs down. Now, let me share with you some important information about budget-friendly, cost-efficient, clean energy production, and most importantly, clean energy mining and investments in uranium deposits. So I'm going to put this image on the screen so you can all see it. And so according to a recent energy.gov website article blog post uploaded titled 3 Reasons Why Nuclear is Clean and Sustainable, nuclear is a zero emission clean energy source, and it generates power through fission, which is the process of splitting uranium atoms to produce energy. The heat released by fission is used to create steam that spins a turbine to generate electricity without the harmful byproducts emitted by fossil fuels. And according to independent journal Science News, rare earth mining may be key to our renewable energy future. And yes, at what cost? That's a very important part that I promise I'm going to get to. So as you can see here, the U.S. is already signing contracts to purchase uranium. So they announced that a contract was awarded to sell $18.5 million of natural uranium concentrates to the U.S. government for the establishment of a strategic uranium reserve, the Uranium Reserve. And the U.S. National Nuclear Security Administration, the NNSA, an office within the U.S. Department of Energy, the DOE, is the agency tasked with purchasing domestic U-308 uranium and conversion services for the uranium reserve. The uranium reserve is intended to be a backup source of supply for domestic nuclear power plants in the event of a significant market disruption. Now, we can discuss the likelihood of the possible futures and possibilities of future and significant market disruptions, but perhaps that would be best for another video, because we can travel down that rabbit hole for hours. But if you're interested in that discussion and how to prepare, just drop a comment down below so I can gauge how much interest there is on that topic. All right, so it all seems pretty easy to me to see what's happening and what is more than likely to happen. And odds are these things will begin happening very soon for us all to see and read on upcoming breaking news headlines. So now is the time to get out ahead of it. So I would like to introduce Uranium Royalty Corp, and most importantly, a very cost-effective approach to achieving the goals of pursuing clean energy, nuclear energy, and mining uranium deposits without digging huge holes for companies to sink in while being buried in debt, nor diluting shareholders and devaluing the shares they own in the clean energy companies of the future. Full disclosure, when you want to develop a uranium mine or uranium deposits, it costs a lot of money. And typically, most businesses and companies interested in setting up shop will go about securing capital in a few of the more traditional ways that is extremely cost prohibitive. If you've watched any of my videos in the past and have listened to me speak about starting businesses, you know that the last thing that I would want to do is to start a business operating on debt. And this is really no different. And so that is why it is so important that I tell you guys about Uranium Royalty Corp. And it is the only royalty company in the world in the uranium space and in the uranium industry, period. So you may be asking yourself, Kevin, what is a royalty company? Well, like I said, most traditional businesses that require huge amounts of funding and capital to get up and running need cash and lots of it. So they can go to a bank and ask for a loan, and that's one funding vehicle. Or they can issue more stock and dilute shareholders. Another option, but a terrible way to do business. Think Elon Musk and diluted Tesla shares to raise capital to purchase Twitter, right? Okay. So there's another way to go about raising capital funding, and that is where Uranium Royalty Corp steps in. Uranium Royalty Corp, traded on the NASDAQ, stock ticker symbol UROY, UROY, provides the solution for funding in exchange for a royalty on production when production happens and not before. So that means no debt, no shareholder dilution, and quite possibly the most valuable return on investment being a vested interest from a strong partner. Now, this could be easily described as maybe the best business model in the entire mining space. So when it comes to royalties, there's usually intense competition. But fortunately, in this particular situation, Uranium Royalty Corp is a first mover. So it gives them a phenomenal opportunity as a first mover and great advantage by offering the royalties that they do. America is the number one consumer of nuclear energy in the world. However, they receive 20% of their nuclear energy from imports from Russia, Kazakhstan, and Canada. And US has one, maybe two active uranium mines currently. Now, this is a relatively new industry, and this company is the leader and the only one in an industry that is just starting. So this is a huge opportunity. Uranium Royalty Corp is very well capitalized. $100 million in cash on the balance sheet, no debt, one active royalty already cash flowing and producing in Canada, with 14 other royalties on the balance sheet advancing towards production, and the company just purchased more, so their balance sheet is continuously growing. With over 1.5 million pounds of physical uranium secured, get this, you can go buy gold, you can go buy silver and other commodities if you really wanted to. But here's the special thing about uranium. It's not like that. A regular person cannot just go out and buy it. But if you buy shares and own a portion of Uranium Royalty Corp, then you have access to over $70 million worth of uranium and can continue to grow as they continue with their business model. There are future plans to sell for a profit to governments, including the U.S. government at that. Remember, the same government who's purchasing from other countries like Russia, Kazakhstan, and Canada. Not to mention that Uranium Royalty Corp trades on the NASDAQ stock exchange, ticker symbol UROY. They have incredible shareholders already involved and institutional shareholders. Very, very smart operators, folks. The share price since IPO, which was January 2020, 3 years ago, is up over 170%, which is important to note because the European Union has designated uranium as a green energy source. I want you guys to learn about an exciting company that's going to be a leader in a bull market and how to get in early as a first mover position. Here, I want you to take a look at these charts. Check out China and Russia. These folks are monsters in comparison to the US. And this is from Statistica.com. The biggest concerns that we should have here is the fact that America can be cut off from its energy source, since it secures most of its uranium imports from other countries. America, honestly, in my opinion, needs to start producing on its own and mining and production here in the US of A. There are many idle mines in maintenance mode that need to be put back into production in exchange for a royalty. And this is the specific banking solution for these mines so that they can mine more deposits and avoid banks and shareholder dilution. And they'll gain a partner to help in exchange for a royalty, which makes this a great opportunity for investors, as owners of shares continuously receiving royalties for years and decades to come. Folks, think about Bruce Springsteen, Taylor Swift, Sandra Bullock, and even myself included, being paid in perpetuity through multiple passive income streams as a result of one single action, an effort to generate conversions, sales, awareness, etc. Uranium Royalty Corp trades on the NASDAQ, ticker symbol UROY, and you can even get your own shares through brokerage trading apps like Moomoo, Robinhood, Webull, M1 Finance, and others. And the CEO spent 30 years previously at Cameco. Founder Amir Aknani and founded Uranium Energy Corp, leading U.S. company in the uranium space. This world-class company, Uranium Royalty Corp, has a $250 million market cap, owned by very smart institutions. Prices currently undervalued according to economic analysts with huge growth potential. So it is easy to see why this is such an important move and how businesses, world leaders, governments, and other entities are planning to make a big invested shift towards energy, specifically with global experts having identified the cost of living crisis as the most severe short-term risk, as high prices for necessities like food and energy slam vulnerable households and lift the odds of civil unrest and protests. And The Guardian reported that in preparation for the World Economic Forum in Davos, Switzerland, warnings of soaring prices for energy and food could persist for the next 2 years, which would be hurting and continuing to hurt global efforts to combat poverty and the climate crisis. And the WEF's annual global risks report found that international cost of living crisis unleashed by the C-19 pandemic and Russia's war in the Ukraine topped the list of concerns in a survey of more than 1,200 global experts, policymakers, and business leaders, and highlighting how the pandemic and the war in Europe have triggered a series of deeply interconnected global risks. It said the fallout could undermine collaboration between countries to tackle longer-term problems, including the climate crisis, protecting biodiversity, and efforts to reduce poverty. So the last thing we need as a country is to experience fallout from our main energy suppliers without real, viable solutions of our own, right here at home in America. Uranium is subject to ownership limitations, which makes it more challenging to acquire exposure than other commodities. And no, folks, this is not the way of going about acquiring your stake in ownership of uranium deposits either. The conversation about nuclear power as a tool to address climate change continues to gain steam. But folks, ladies and gentlemen, the simple fact of the matter is this, is that the United States has a huge opportunity to mine its own uranium deposits. And what is going to be most important is that businesses have the opportunities and the financial means and ability to execute on these mining opportunities for the future of nuclear energy, clean energy, and ultimately a sustainable source of power here in the United States without having to rely on other countries for imports, especially other countries that we are currently having or could potentially have in the future conflicts with that could ultimately shut us off. We have seen this happen previously, and the lasting effects that it has had on our economy, on prices of food and groceries, inflation, and the possibility of food shortages and food insecurities as a result of grain exports and fertilizer, as well as a few other items. You guys know all about it. However, the energy crisis could be even far worse, as we know that we have a finite amount of time before we can reach a reasonable solution of sustainability to reduce emissions overall. And obviously, we know that solar power and wind power is not necessarily going to provide enough for the push for an EV transition and a zero emissions transition, or closer to zero emissions transition in this country and around the world. So in order for these things to happen, businesses need funding, businesses need capital. And going to a bank, a traditional bank, especially today with the current financial situation, the Fed, Jerome Powell continuously raising interest rates, further making it more expensive to borrow money in these instances, in these situations, for businesses to operate and conduct business and grow and execute on their business plans. It's 2 steps forward, 3 steps backwards. And it's not a sustainable way of conducting business. And it's definitely not a sustainable way, nor a intelligent way of starting a business. So to have the opportunity to have access to capital, access to funding with a partner who knows the space, who is has a vested interest in your business's success and thriving and production, the method of which Uranium Royalty Corp offers the royalty in exchange for production is quite possibly one of the best ways to conduct business and gain access to capital to execute on mining these uranium deposits and producing energy here at home in America without the extreme burden and heavy weight of the cost of the debt to carry before you've even produced, or the dilution of shareholder value, therefore reducing the likelihood of investors coming in and further supporting the business. The royalty model makes tremendous sense, which is a similar model that I employ on my own channel and in a lot of my own businesses, where there's no upfront cost or expense. It's all through royalties, which gains greater support from both sides of the partnership with a common goal of production and success. Without the burden, worry, panic, anxiety, stress, and fear of being able to make your debt payments before you actually even execute it on production. Folks, check it out. Uranium Royalty Corp, UROY. I've got them pulled up here, just a quick search. You can see, and you can pull this up on Moomoo. You can pull it up on Webull. You can pull it up on M1, Fidelity Finance, Merrill Lynch, whatever trading platform you use, UROY, and you can see their chart here. The stock value currently at the time of this recording is $2. Stock price is $2.55. And if you got any questions, drop them down below. Hit me up in the comments. Let me know. I'd be happy to answer them for you, as well as create future videos with additional information, expanding on the questions that you guys have to help you understand the company itself, Uranium Royalty Corp, as well as the future of nuclear power, nuclear fission, nuclear energy, uranium deposits, and uranium mining, especially as it relates to those deposits available here in the United States, as well as how much nuclear energy that the United States currently outsources and imports and buys and is relying upon other countries for, while also realizing that they're paying a premium for that. We do need to bring production back home. Like, if you agree, we do not need to put ourselves unnecessarily further into a position of vulnerability of global supply chain issues and global conflicts that we have just experienced here recently. And honestly, I can't see a better way right now than doubling down on the opportunities that are available to us to produce our own clean energy. What do you guys think? Let me know. Drop a comment. I appreciate you guys watching. You guys take care. Be safe. I'll see you on the next one.